The story kicks off with a naked boy submerged in a strange liquid in the middle of the forest. The boy seems clueless about who he is, let alone where he is. A few minutes later, he makes it to town, but he's still naked and looks at everything as if it's his first time seeing it. After scaring a few pedestrians, the police finally show up and take him to a detention center, locking him up for indecent exposure. Since the boy doesn't have a name and doesn't seem to understand what the officers are saying, they name him Kyle and take him to the infirmary for a medical checkup. When they examine Kyle's body, they find that it's perfect for his age. He doesn't have a single pimple or wart, and he has no navel, which is extremely rare and catches the doctor's attention. When the medical exam results come in, the mysterious boy mimics one of the other boys, who gets angry because he thinks Kyle is mocking him, leading to a fight. In the yard, the boy punches Kyle squarely in the face, causing Kyle to fall to the ground. Shortly after, a liquid soaks his pants. Kyle's behavior is just too strange to ignore. Not knowing what to do, the guards decide to call Nicole, the center's experienced psychiatrist, to figure out what's up with the boy. He's a strange kid, but completely innocent to the outside world. Nicole asks him to draw something, and like a printer, Kyle makes a detailed drawing of two people he saw intimately in the woods. Since Kyle shows no signs of violence, Nicole decides to take him home to run more tests that might reveal any trauma. Nicole thinks Kyle might have experienced something traumatic, which is why he doesn't remember his past. At home, Kyle's presence surprises his daughter Lori, who comes out of the bathroom with a towel, not expecting a boy her age to be there to watch over her. After getting over the initial shock, Kyle introduces himself, but the young girl doesn't pay much attention to him since she has better things to do, like running to meet her boyfriend. A few minutes later, Kyle goes out into the garden, guided by a butterfly that's watching him closely. He hears music coming from a door on the side with a grave accent, and upon entering, he meets a girl named Amanda. Amanda turns around, and her face scares Kyle, who runs into the house and hides in the bathtub. That's when Josh, Lori's brother, walks into the bathroom with an adult magazine. While the young man is amused by the photos inappropriate for his age, Kyle scares him, and the boy runs to his mother, forgetting to hide the magazine. After punishing Josh, Nicole hears the doorbell. It's Carol, Amanda's mom, who comes to complain about the scare Kyle gave her daughter this morning, but she seems attracted to Kyle. That evening, Stephen, the father, comes home. Nicole introduces Kyle and says the boy will stay with them for a few days. During dinner, something truly impressive happens because Kyle says his first words. However, he speaks in a thug language, similar to the one he heard from the other boys at the detention center. The next day, Nicole brings Kyle into her office so he can continue his questions, and Josh takes the opportunity to give him a questionnaire. To their great surprise, Kyle answers all the questions without any problem, which clearly shows that he is not stupid. After Kyle obtained a score of 400 on the IQ test, it was time to do more to discover who he was and where he came from. When Nicole announces to her colleagues that Kyle has an IQ twice that of Einstein, they give him an MRI and discover that the boy's brain is extraordinary. Not only is it developed to a point that humans have not yet reached, but the level of brain activity is very high, which means he is either an alien or a robot. That evening, Nicole takes Kyle home and has him share Josh's room, who is not at all happy about the situation. In the middle of the night, Kyle hears the door and sees Lori leaving. He decides to follow her until she arrives at a party. Kyle naively starts drinking alcohol, getting drunk until the police arrive. One of the agents tries to take Lori away, and Kyle intervenes for a moment, making a funny face and a snake-like noise, which makes everyone laugh. But when the officer tries to lay a hand on him, Kyle dodges. The officer starts to lose patience and pulls out his baton to hit Kyle. But the young man doesn't just dodge. He humiliates him, earning applause from everyone as the officer leaves, defeated. Later, Kyle brings Lori home and redeems himself with the rest of the family the next day. First, he fixes Steven's computer and gives him access to very important documents he had lost a few months earlier. Then, he cleans Josh's room and gives him another dirty magazine. Kyle quickly wins the family's love, and Nicole offers to let him stay with them, at least for a while, which will give them time to understand what happened to him. The mysterious boy doesn't sleep at night and continues his routine with strange behavior. A few days later, Nicole takes Kai to a doctor who is impressed by the results. The boy's body seems brand new, just like his teeth. Finally, his brain is a marvel. The activity is astonishing, and he finds no explanation. Steven is quite sure he can tire Kyle out, hoping that Kyle will calm down. But he is ultimately wrong. Kyle runs like lightning, and Steven gets out of breath. Steven returns home and argues with his wife that Kyle isn't human and must go back where he came from. This argument is overheard by Kyle himself, who runs off in search of where he came from. Steven is doing his best to find him, but the young man is nowhere to be found. They call the police, but they're told that if it hasn't been 24 hours, there's not much they can do. Nicole finds some drawings Kyle made, so they grab their flashlight and search for him, thinking the boy might be at the place he drew. Luckily, Kyle is right at that spot, gazing at the stars. When they get home, Steven apologizes to Kyle and invites him to take a bath. The young man listens to the radio for the first time. The white noise between signals seems to calm him. After several days, Kyle finally falls asleep. The next day, the police call Nicole to let her know they've found a human skeleton very close to where Kyle was discovered. Officer Taylor explains to Nicole that even though they've found bones, the death could be recent, and they've found traces of skin that they're currently analyzing. Officer Taylor wants to question Kyle, but Nicole manages to delay it, at least until the boy wakes up. The next morning, Kyle tries to watch TV, but the antenna is broken. The boy climbs onto the roof and repairs it. But as he's coming down, he jumps off the roof, which Amanda sees. Thinking Kyle is hurt, she gets distracted and ends up crashing into the trash cans with her car. Although Amanda is unharmed, Carol is furious about the damage to the car and even threatens to take away her license. But Kyle takes the blame and saves her from the situation. Carol doesn't have a good impression of him and yells at him to stay away from her daughter. That night, Steven asks Nicole to talk to him privately. The police revealed that someone disappeared the same day they found Kyle, so they might be looking for a murderer. They don't realize their conversation is being overheard by a strange man who follows Kyle everywhere with a remote microphone. The next morning, while tidying up the boys' room, Nicole finds a series of Kyle's drawings. Putting them together, she realizes they form the same symbol found at the crime scene. There's no longer any doubt. Kyle was present at the crime scene and could be the culprit. Meanwhile, Amanda gets a job as a lifeguard, and Kyle, attracted to her, decides to jump into the water to be rescued. His plan works, but only because of a small miscalculation during the rescue, as one part of his body activates involuntarily upon seeing the daughter-in-law. That afternoon, Amanda goes to Nicole's house to check on Kyle, but he's not there. Amanda sees all the drawings Kyle made of her, and it's clear that Kyle is obsessed with her, which reinforces the serial killer theory. The next day, Kyle shows up at the pool to learn how to swim. After a few tips, Kyle starts swimming like only Aquaman can, surprising everyone, including Amanda, who invites him to spend the afternoon with her, as her parents are not home. Once at her place, Amanda takes out some drawings of her recently deceased father, which are very similar to those Kyle made of her. He wants to give them to her that evening at the party they're going to. But when Amanda shows up, she does so with Charlie, her boyfriend, which completely ruins Kyle's plan to confess his feelings to her. That evening at home, the boy is engulfed in sadness and keeps wondering who he really is. The next day, Nicole tells him that she has invited a friend to hypnotize him, as it might help him find the missing part of his story. The boy agrees, and the session begins quickly. Kyle is taken back in his mind to that night in the woods, and can see the same boy he followed fighting with another man, whom he shoots several times before running away. Kyle then says his name out loud, Tom Foss, and Nicole remembers this name from when she went to the police station. Tom is a new police officer who has just arrived in town, which raises questions. Nicole asks Kyle to draw what he remembers, and he draws what he remembers, and the name is Feldman, who was a professor at the university. Feldman was a renowned expert on human memory. The family then goes to the university to see if Kyle and he are related. To their great surprise, Kyle sees a photo of Feldman's students, and in one of them, he appears himself. Kyle shows the photo to Holly, Feldman's assistant, who agrees to undergo memory tests. To his great surprise, Kyle scores 100% on all the tests, something he had never achieved before in his life. Holly explains that Feldman's research aimed to remove the limits of the mind. Holly takes them to Feldman's widow, who lets them go through his belongings, where they find several drawings with the same symbol. Lori asks her father to check the coordinates, and he calls her back a few minutes later, telling her that they point to a government facility guarded by the military. With the help of Deck, one of Feldman's students, Kyle manages to reach the border of the secret government facility. He jumps the fence and is attacked by a masked man a second later. The karate lessons given in the middle of the night by the television payoff. Kyle manages to defend himself and remove the man's mask, revealing that it is Tom, whom he remembers from the night he shot Feldman. He tells him that he must trust him and that Feldman was not the man everyone thought. If Kyle wants to live a peaceful life, he must stop asking questions about his past. Every step he takes in searching for his origins will endanger his new family. Before leaving, Tom asks him to abandon the search, or they will kill his entire family to solve the problem. Unfortunately, the station's cameras spot her, and one of the government agents calls her Project XY. As soon as she gets home, Nicole takes him to the hospital to treat his injuries. There, a couple shows up claiming to be Kyle's biological parents, and that they've come to take him back. DNA tests prove that Kyle is their son, but they refuse to leave Nicole and the others. That night, Kyle goes to find Tom and wants to know why these people have come. Tom tells him that it's easy for them to manipulate DNA tests and promises to tell him everything, but they need to go to a safer place. Suddenly, Kyle hears the sound of a gunshot. He manages to dodge the bullet, but it hits Tom in the shoulder. They now have to get away as quickly as possible, while a sniper continues to shoot at them. Once they're safe, Tom tells Kyle the whole truth. But since they need to keep us in suspense, we learn nothing. The next morning, Kyle returns home and tells his supposed biological parents that he remembers everything, knows what they say is true, and is ready to go home with them. However, it turns out that the actors were hired by Tom. They then go to the operations center, where Kyle discovers everything else. There, he meets Adam, who reveals to him that he is actually a clone. Feldman helped develop the technology to improve them, but decided to sell it to the government. The first season ends with the promise of enhanced clones about to fight for control of the technology, and Kyle leading a team under Adam's command. If you want to know what will happen in the second season, comment on this video, subscribe, and leave a like to support me.